As I settled into my chair in the small conference room, I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. Interviewing candidates for our team was always an interesting experience, a chance to meet new people and potentially find the perfect addition to our growing company. I glanced down at the resume in front of me, impressed by the qualifications listed. The candidate, Daniel Thompson, seemed to have an impressive background in our industry. I was looking forward to hearing about his experiences and what he could bring to our team. The moment Daniel walked through the door, I sensed something was off. His body language was tense, his handshake a bit too firm, as if he was trying to prove something. I brushed it off, chalking it up to interview nerves. After all, even the most qualified candidates can feel anxious in these situations. As we began the interview, I started with my usual opener, asking Daniel to tell me a bit about his background and what led him to apply for this position. That's when the floodgates opened. Instead of highlighting his achievements or expressing enthusiasm for the opportunity, Daniel launched into a tirade about his previous job. At first, I tried to steer the conversation back to his qualifications, but it quickly became clear that not interested in discussing his skills or potential contributions to our team. He was on a mission to air every grievance he had about his former workplace. Daniel's former boss, according to him, was a complete incompetent who had no business being in a leadership position. He described in painstaking detail how this boss had mismanaged projects, played favorites, and generally created a toxic work environment. The venom in Daniel's voice was palpable, and I found myself becoming increasingly uncomfortable as he continued his rant. But Daniel wasn't content to stop at criticizing his boss. He moved on to his coworkers, painting them as a group of lazy, unmotivated individuals who were content to coast by doing the bare minimum. He recounted instances where he had to pick up their slack, working late nights and weekends to compensate for their inadequacies. As Daniel continued his diatribe, I couldn't help but notice that he never once mentioned any attempts to address these issues constructively. There was no mention of conversations with his boss to improve the situation, no efforts to collaborate more effectively with his coworkers. Instead, he seemed to revel in his role as the lone competent person in a sea of incompetence. The negativity was overwhelming. What had started as a standard job interview had turned into a therapy session, with Daniel unloading years of pent-up frustration and resentment. I found myself wondering how long he had been carrying this burden, and why he thought this was an appropriate venue to express it. As the interview progressed, I made several attempts to redirect the conversation to more positive topics. I asked about his proudest achievements, the skills he had developed in his career, and what he was looking for in his next role. But each time, Daniel found a way to circle back to his grievances, using even the most innocuous questions as a springboard to launch into another complaint. It was clear that Daniel was stuck in a blame game, unable or unwilling to take responsibility for any part of his dissatisfaction. Every problem, every setback, every frustration was someone else's fault. His boss was to blame for the stressful work environment. His coworkers were to blame for his long hours. The company culture was to blame for his lack of advancement. As I sat there, listening to this litany of complaints, I couldn't help but see it as a major red flag. If this was how Daniel approached a job interview, how would he behave if he actually got the job? Would he bring this same negative attitude to our workplace? Would he spend his time criticizing his new coworkers and managers instead of contributing to the team? Moreover, I began to wonder if Daniel would ever be truly satisfied in any job. His inability to find any positives in his previous role suggested a deeper issue. Was he the type of person who would always find someone else to blame for his unhappiness, regardless of the circumstances? As the interview drew to a close, I felt a sense of relief. What should have been a 45-minute conversation had stretched to nearly 2 hours, and I was emotionally drained from the constant negativity. I thanked his time and assured him we would be in touch, knowing full well that he would not be moving forward in our hiring process. After Daniel left, I sat in the conference room for a few minutes, processing what had just happened. It was, without a doubt, the most negative interview I had ever conducted. But as I reflected on the experience, I realized it had taught me some valuable lessons about what to look for in candidates. First and foremost, it reinforced the importance of a positive attitude. While it's natural for people to have frustrations with previous jobs, The ability to frame these experiences constructively is crucial. I made a mental note to pay more attention to how candidates discuss their past roles, looking for those who can acknowledge challenges while focusing on what they learned and how they grew. Secondly, the interview with Daniel highlighted the value of personal responsibility. A candidate who blames everyone else for their problems is likely to bring that same mindset to a new job. Instead, I realized I should be looking for individuals who demonstrate the ability to take ownership of their experiences, both positive and negative. The experience also underscored the importance of emotional intelligence in the workplace. Daniel's lack of self-awareness and his inability to read the room were glaring red flags. In contrast, I began to appreciate candidates who could navigate the interview process with grace, demonstrating their ability to handle professional interactions skillfully. As I updated the interview notes in our hiring system, I found myself reflecting on the broader implications of Daniel's attitude. How many people go through their careers carrying such negativity? How does this affect their personal lives, their relationships with coworkers, and their overall job satisfaction? I realized that as a hiring manager, I had a responsibility not just to my company, but also to the candidates themselves. By valuing and selecting individuals who demonstrate a growth mindset and a positive attitude, I could contribute to creating a healthier work environment. This, in turn, could have a ripple effect, positively impacting not just our company but potentially the entire industry. In the days that followed, I found myself paying much closer attention to how candidates discussed their previous experiences. I began to appreciate those who could articulate the challenges they faced while focusing on the lessons learned and the skills developed. These were the candidates who showed resilience, adaptability, and a commitment to personal growth, qualities that would make them valuable additions to any team. The interview with Daniel also prompted me to reflect on my own career journey. Had there been times when I had fallen into the trap of blaming others for my frustrations? How had I handled difficult work situations in the past? This self-reflection led me to commit to fostering a more positive and growth-oriented mindset in my own professional life. As we continued our hiring process, I shared my experience with the rest of the hiring team. We had a productive discussion about the importance of attitude and emotional intelligence in addition to technical skills. We agreed to incorporate questions and scenarios into our interview process that would help us better assess these qualities in candidates. As I continue in my role, I carry the lessons from that interview with me. I'm more attuned to the subtle cues that reveal a candidate's attitude and approach to work. I've learned to value not just what a person has accomplished, but how they've navigated their professional journey. In the end, the interview with Daniel served as a powerful reminder that success in the workplace isn't just about skills and experience. It's about attitude, resilience, and the ability to learn and grow. As I conduct each new interview, I'm not just looking for someone to fill a role, I'm looking for someone who will contribute positively to our team culture and grow along with our company. The experience taught me that sometimes the most valuable interviews are not the ones that go smoothly, but the ones that challenge us and force us to reevaluate our perspectives. Daniel's interview, as difficult as it was, ultimately made me a better hiring manager and a more thoughtful professional. For that, despite the discomfort of the experience, I'm grateful.